in the north of the Gaza Strip to the south. They moved to Rafah. And there they stayed in a home with so many displaced people. And according to his mom, Aya told me, Asil, the situation was unbearable. We were so many people in the same house. We were suffering to get any food, water, or any necessities. So they decided to move to a tent, also in Rafah, but in a different neighborhood. The situation in the tent was also awful. People cannot stay in a clean environment while they are crowded, while
And suppose we're at a time that is so great and yet dreadful that it carries two dispositions that seem to be opposed to each other.
Yes, sir.
Great on one hand, dreadful on the other. The Bible warns us of a great and a dreadful day. So if the day has two dispositions that dialectically are opposites, then there may be something that you have to love and something you have to hate.
That's right.
Maybe there's some stones you have to gather and there's some stones you have to cast away. Maybe there's something you got to heal and maybe there's something you got to kill. Maybe there's something you got to love and something you got to hate. But what time is it? Because Jesus said no man can serve two masters. No man. In the book of Genesis, when God, as the Bible teaches, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and God said, let there be light. And he brought light out of darkness. And one part he called day, and the other part he called night. He never lets the two of them rule at the same time. One comes, the other goes. The other comes, the other goes. Well then, if man can't serve two masters, who's your master now? And who's come to be the master?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Y'all all right?
Yes, sir.
I'm dealing with the Bible for a minute because we have a predominantly Christian audience, but I'll get to the Quran and I will get to other scriptures in a minute.
Time, sir. Take your time.
Now, in the Bible, it tells us that Jesus saw his disciples one day and he said, I want you to go and you will find an ass and a young colt tied. Untie them. And if anybody asks you, tell them the master has need of them. No man can serve two masters. Well, if the ass and the young colt are tied, that means somebody owns them.
That's right. That's right.
But they're tied, meaning somebody isn't making use of them. They just got them tied up. Jesus is not telling his disciples to steal, but he did tell them, loose the ass and the colt. And if anybody says anything, because somebody's bound to say something, what are you doing? Untying my ass and my coat. What's the matter with you? He said, but if anybody asks you, tell them the master has come. And the master has need of them. What does it mean? See, when you know the time, then you know what must be done.
Yes, sir.
If the master has come, he didn't come late, he came on time.
That's right.
He started casting demons out, and as the demons were coming out of the person, they started screaming at Jesus.
Yes.
Why are you persecuting me before time?
That's right.
See, they knew a time was coming.
Yes, sir.
That Satan would be persecuted by the master.
Tea time.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
They knew the time was coming, but they were not sure of the time because their calendar had gotten messed up.
Yes, sir. Make it plain.
You know how it is when your watch gets off base and you miss an appointment?
Yes, sir.
They didn't know that the master was actually on time, because if he wasn't on time, the serpents or the demons wouldn't be coming up out of the woman.
That's right.
When he called the demons out, the demons started coming out of the woman.
Tea.
And they were cussing the master
Yes,
as they
sir.
were coming out. Why are you persecuting me before it's time?
Tea.
And if Jesus could have answered at that point, he would have said, fool, it is time. That's why I'm here. I'm on time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Oh, look at the way they write. Look at the way they're writing. They're writing like they're being persecuted.
That's right.
Let's all get together and let's be brothers. Well, when did you learn that we're supposed to be brothers? You waited 6,000 years to learn that? Why didn't you practice this 400 years ago?
That's right.
You didn't see us as your brother when you brought us out of Africa and made us slaves. We weren't your brother then. Why you want us to be your brother now? What do you see coming? We all must be together to fight hate and bigotry. What are you talking about? What are you going to do? Get everybody together to fight yourself? These black people hate themselves not because Farrakhan taught them to hate. They hate themselves because they have been miseducated and mistreated ever since we've been in your hands. You told us to call you Massa. Massa? So whatever we are, that's what you made. This evil man is coming to West Palm Beach.
That's what they say.
Come, Reverend. Come. Everybody come. Let's dialogue. He's a hate teacher. He's a villain. What's wrong with you? He's scapegoating us. What's the matter with you? You feel I'm persecuting you? I'm on time. I'm on time. You see, black people, white folk have been expecting somebody like this. They knew that you were not going to be their property forever. They knew God was going to intervene one day and send you somebody who would be strong enough, brave enough, bold enough, and love you deep enough that he would give his life to get the truth to you, that the truth might make you free. So, the ass and the colt were tied. I didn't forget. And Jesus said, untie them and bring them to me. So the disciples obeyed Jesus.
Yes, sir.
Somebody owned the ass and the colt, but they weren't stealing.
That's right.
They just knew another time had come.
That's right.
You see, there's a law called the law of use.
Teach.
What you have, you must utilize it. If you don't use what God has given, you forfeit your right to hold on to what you don't use. The Indians or Native Americans can be angry with white people if they want to. But by the law of use, you had 3,000 by 2,000 miles, you running up and down, brothers and sisters, hunting buffalo. Well, that's nice.
Come on, listen.
That's nice. I'm not making any mockery.
That's right.
But what was under your foot was value. When God made man, he didn't make man to run on top of the earth and just do nothing.
That's right.
He said multiply, replenish the earth and subdue it. Man's role is to become master of the earth, master of the laws that govern creation, so that man may become God's vicegerent on earth. You don't run around doing nothing expecting that you're just going to have a lovely life doing nothing, living on top of the earth, smoking a pipe, sitting up under a tree till a coconut fall on your head. No. White folk got busy.
Yes, sir. Teach. Go ahead.
They sent Christopher over here.
That's right.
And when Christopher saw this beautiful land, he said, I take this in the name of the king,
Yes.
in the name of the queen,
Right.
in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ.
Yes, sir.
And he started pushing the Indians out. Not that they're Indians, but that's what he called them, because he was trying to find a new route
Yes, sir. Yeah. Teach.
to India.
Teach, sir.
Got lost
Yes, sir.
and called the people Indians. Well, he's always naming things. You know him. So by the law of use, those who had the land forfeited it, and white folks took it away. They took it away. There's another law, the law of abuse. And if you abuse what you have, then someone has the right to take it. Right now, child abuse.
Yes.
They come right in your home. What? You're not feeding your children? What? You're abusing them? What? Come, take them. And you say, but I made them. Yes. What else is new?
Go ahead, sir.
But I suffered and I brought them here. Yes. But what are you doing with them now that you got them here? There's a demand on you to rear those children properly and never abuse them. So when you abuse them, government steps in.
That's right.
Takes them away.
Yes,
The law of abuse.
Yes, sir.
When you abuse something, you forfeit your right to have it. What time is it?
Come on. Go ahead, brother. Tyler, you're making plays. Teach.
Now, Caucasian people, you've had this.
Yes, sir.
Now you've abused it. You've abused the earth. You've poisoned the earth, and your greed has caused you to poison the land. You've poisoned the water. You've poisoned the air. You're destroying the rainforests. And with your pseudo technology, you're depleting the ozone layer. So by the law of abuse, you are forfeiting your right to ownership.
Yes, sir.
So the scripture says, he takes the kingdom from whom he pleases,
Teach.
and he gives the kingdom to whom he pleases.
That's right.
The Christians say the kingdom of this world has become the kingdom of our God and of his Christ.
Yes, sir.
When Christ comes, he does not come to negotiate.
No, sir. Go ahead, sir.
You take this and I'll have that. No! He comes to take it all.
Yes, sir. That's right.
And that's why pseudo-Christians
Come on, Pseudo.
have made a pact with the world of evil. But true Christians know that Christ does not compromise with the wickedness of the world.
No, sir.
So when he comes into the world, he comes in to crush the wicked and to take the earth from the hands of the wicked and set up a rule that would bring peace and justice and brotherhood to the human family. That's your Bible. That is the Quran. No wicked government, no wicked people
No, sir.
will rule God's people forever. If you see the ass and the colt, untie him. And if anybody asks you, what are you doing? Just tell them the master has come. That should have ended the argument right then. The master has come. Well, I thought I was the master. He said, you were. A new master is on scene. And no man can love two masters or serve two masters. He must love one and hate the other.
That's right. Yes, sir.
Oh, that's heavy.
Yes, sir.
That's your Bible. I didn't write it now. Don't blame me. I'm just quoting. Now, who is the ass? Oh, don't get vulgar. I'm not trying to be vulgar.
Come on, teach. Yes, sir.
I'll sweeten it up a little. The donkey.
Yes, sir.
The donkey represents the unlearned masses of the people. The colt is the offspring of a horse. The horse is the most intelligent in the family of the beasts.
Yes.
But the young colt means the young learned ones.
Yes, sir.
You college students, you a colt, but you're tied up. Got your brains tied to the hitching post of a world order that's on its way out.
Yes, sir.
The ass is tied. White folk don't have no jobs for you. They're not building no factories for you. They're shipping jobs south of the border. Men walking around in West Palm Beach, every day looks like Sunday because Sunday used to be our day off.
Yes, sir.
But now every day is a day off for the black man.
That's right.
No job, tied up. What you tied to? I'm tied to democratic ideals and principles. I saw the ad in the paper today, we are Americans. Since when? You only call us Americans when it's time to pay taxes. Or when you're in trouble somewhere in the world and you want our sons to go fight for you, then we're Americans. But when it comes time to sharing the promise of America with the children of the slaves, we can't find you. Am I lying or telling the truth? And they got you tied up. Tied to what? Nothing. Pinning your hopes on some debonair president.
Yes. Teach.
Saxophone playing
That's it.
president.
Yes, sir.
All he knows on the horn is the blues changes. And that's all you've been getting since he's been in the White House. You've been singing the blues. I'm not saying he doesn't have good intentions, but good intentions is not going to feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, clothe the naked. Good intentions is not what America needs. America needs sane, sound policies.
Yes, sir.
Intelligent programs. Since the war on poverty, America has spent over $1 trillion on various poverty programs, Head Start, entitlement programs. Over $1 trillion, and look at the condition of the inner cities of America. They're in the worst condition that they have ever been in since the history of the founding of this nation.
Yes, sir.
And black people are in the worst condition that we have ever been in since there was a time and a people on the earth.
Right.
Never has there been a time when we have been so self-destructive. Never has there been a time
Go ahead, sir.
when we have been so vile, so low down, so cold and callous in our mistreatment of one another, where you make it so difficult for anybody to teach you how to love yourself and love your brother, because your brother is the one breaking in your house, stealing your goods, raping your wife and your daughter, selling drugs to your babies, drive-by shootings, murdering the children. It's not the white man doing this, it's your own brother. So it makes it difficult for us to tell you to love yourself and love your brother, because your brother has become your worst enemy. The Bible teaches they of a man's own household will be his worst enemy. Will be his worst enemy. You're tied up. You're tied up to ideas that are non-productive. All of us who come out of college and have these wonderful degrees, we don't put up factories. All of us wear shoes, we don't have one shoe factory. All of us wear underwear, we're not even producing underwear. All of us wipe ourselves and we don't make tissue or toilet paper. We're having babies left and right, and we haven't got a Huggies factory. That's right. We're not doing nothing for self. And we turn around and blame Jews and Koreans and Arabs for coming into our community and nursing themselves to economic strength off of the $300 billion purchasing power of black people. While we stand by cursing them, we are not getting busy producing the goods and services that our own people need. You're tied up to a concept of heaven in the sky, while you built a heaven in Palm Beach for those who run and rule this. You're cleaning the white folks' heaven. But you got to get yours when you're dead. You're tied up. Imagine how messed up your mind is when you're thinking all out in space. How many of you have ever played football? The game is make somebody think the ball is here while the ball is there so we can score.
That's right.
Well, the game spiritually is make you think heaven is there while it's here so we can take here and score while you're looking up. Your head is tied wrong. If I were a used car salesman and I sold you a car, it looked good, it was clean, but I didn't give you the key. I took your money and kept the key. What would you call me? A what? A crook.
Yes, sir.
And some of you wouldn't go and get Judge Wapner. You reach in your back pocket for your judge, jury, and your executioner.
Yes, sir. That's right.
Well, what do you think about an education that you got to pay for and you can't use it? These silly courses that you go to college for just to get a degree with a non-useful subject matter. I've just graduated. I have my BS degree. In what course? I have my degree in black studies.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Come on, sir. Go ahead.
Oh, well, put that to exchange, huh? What?
Yes, sir.
So you got a degree in black studies. So what? Is it useful?
Come on, that's the question.
Can you put it to use? Do you know how to put to use what you got your degree in? Half of you have gotten a degree to satisfy some parental obligation or some vain idea that heaven is going to open up if you can only show them that you graduated out of college with a degree in physical education. Slaves don't need degrees in physical education. You've been toting that barge and lifting that bale and getting drunk and landing in jail. You don't need no P.E. degree.
Teach hard. Wake us up. That's right. That's right.
I have my degree in psychology. Who you working it on? Why you got a gun in your pocket if you got a degree in psychology? You run out of psych, huh? But you only got psych 101, so now I just have to get my gun. No, brother and sister, you're not really being educated. You're being trained and deceived with education. Some of you that have the degrees are some of the dumbest people that we could find. Now, wait a minute. I'm not mocking you. I'm not mocking you. I'm not, no. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm not knocking education. But if you only get education to quote somebody and not to become a thinker with the ability to become analytical of everything that is put in front of you, then you are being trained to operate in a system. That's what I meant, you're tied up. You can't think outside of the box. Because he who gives you the diameter of your knowledge prescribes the circumference of your activity.
Yes, sir.
So if somebody taught you what they taught you, then they know what to expect from you.
Yeah.
So somebody outside of the diameter of what you have learned has to come and teach you so you can build a new circumference of activity that is in accord with the time, in accord with the nature, and in accord with what must be done. All right.
Yes, sir. Beautiful. Go ahead.
Jesus came riding into Jerusalem on the donkey.
Yes, sir.
And when they saw him coming, they said, this must be him, the Messiah that we've been looking for. And they sang, Hosanna, Hosanna. And while they were cheering him, the authorities were watching. And when the authorities saw the multitudes coming out to hear the Jesus, they said, if we don't stop this man, the whole world will go after him.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I greet you, my beloved brothers and sisters, in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the ancient tongue of Arabic. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome, 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 dear beloved family, to another episode of the Imagination Show. My name is Brother Leo Muhammad, And sitting alongside me is my beloved wife, sister, best friend, Sister Claudia Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum, family. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. I greet you all in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum again. I pray that you are all safe and well and enjoying the countless blessings from Almighty God Allah. We are enjoying the weather here today, one day out of 365.
We got some sunshine.
It must be such a blessing to live in the sun permanently.
Wow.
All of those who are out there who live in the sun permanently, you are so blessed. It's such a blessing.
You should never complain.
No.
Dear family. If you are blessed to live in a tropical environment, you should never, ever complain because, man, I'm telling you, the whole atmosphere changes when this sun shines, when this sun comes out. And, you know, as Black people, we're energized by the sun. Go ahead.
Sorry, you just need to press that button.
Oh. Okay. Yeah. I don't know why that happened. But yes, dear family, you know, we are very, very blessed as a people if we live in the sun, if we live in a tropical environment, if we're in, you know, these beautiful countries from whence our ancestors came. And some of us have found ourselves here in the cold north. But when we get those 3 or 4 days out of the 365, man, I'm telling you, they are phenomenal.
Yes, and just to say, it is a blessing to have you all here once again. We don't take it for granted.
Absolutely. Thank you, dear family, for tuning in. Don't forget, call a friend, a relative, a loved one, a family member. Tell them to tune in right now because we are live and direct on YouTube and also on Zoom with the Imagination Show. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the show. Okay, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button so that, you know, when we're broadcasting, you know what we're doing. Okay, and, you know, for those of you who want to make a donation to help us to keep going, you know, there is that provision also available to you. Thank you, dear family, for being a part of the Image and Nation family. Now let's get into our subject. I hope you were enjoying the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and what he was sharing with us because as always, very, very powerful. You got to appreciate that, you know, that's a tape from the days when Clinton was in the White House. But isn't it still relevant today?
Absolutely.
You know, if we're honest, we'll see that not a great deal has really changed for our people. And if the truth be known, in many cases, it's actually worse. Our condition has worsened as a people, would be that in North America or right here in the so-called United Kingdom. So welcome to episode 135 of the Imagination Show. Today is Thursday, the 20th of June, 2024, and our subject matter is Juneteenth, premature celebration. Juneteenth, premature celebration. That's what we want to talk about in the brief time that we have together this evening. And I hope, as always, that what we have chosen to discuss, that you can see the relevance and the importance of it and why we are touching on this subject. Now, first and foremost, I must admit to not knowing a great deal about the holiday called Juneteenth. I was asking my wife about it, and she didn't know that much either. But it's celebrated annually over the United States, all over the United States of America. But according to the Oxford Dictionary, it takes place on the 19th of June, which was yesterday, Wednesday. But from my research, it appears that it can and does extend over several days. I think it's one of those holidays whereby, you know, our people will often, you know, celebrate it over a weekend, or they will utilize as many of the days. I think it's called Juneteenth because they use basically the whole of the month of June in one form or another. You can have Juneteenth types of things going on. According to the dictionary, it says it's a holiday celebrated on 19th June to commemorate the emancipation of enslaved people in the US. Now, I'm tempted to stop right there and just break that down, you see, because we don't need holidays to commemorate our enslavement or the ending of our enslavement. That should be definitely something that we should recognize, commemorate, but to turn it into a holiday, this is where I have a difficulty. This is where I have a problem, because you see, holiday conjures up a different type of reality. When they say they made a holiday for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., I don't like that language, you see, dear family. But let's continue. According to the dictionary, it's a holiday celebrated on the 19th of June to commemorate the emancipation of enslaved people in the US. The holiday was first celebrated in Texas, where on that date in 1865, in the aftermath of the Civil War, enslaved people were declared free under the terms of the 1862 Emancipation Proclamation. Now, dear family, first and foremost, I just want us to appreciate that the word emancipation does not mean freedom. So even that, again, where we say, oh, black people, enslaved people were declared free, there's so much trickery involved in the process of the ending of our enslavement. And in reality, if we were listening to what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was just teaching, the slavery never ended, okay? And hence why they use such terminology as emancipation, because as I said, it doesn't mean freedom. It means to make free from the hand of the enslaver, but it doesn't mean ultimately that the people have been set free. You know, I always question this idea that we as a people have been made free, because I think, well, one of the things that I heard, and one of the things that the government promised on the so-called freeing of black people, in particular in the United States of America, was that the formerly enslaved people were promised that on the point of freedom, they would be given 40 acres and a mule. The mule in that time, when you're talking about 1865, the mule would have been the equivalent of a tractor. Okay, the mule would have been for, helping to carry heavy loads or to help to plow the fields and so on and so forth, whatever was needed to work that 40 acres. 40 acres is a substantial piece of land. But according to the way in which the history is unfolded, that 40 acres and a mule never, ever materialized. Hence why I think Spike Lee, I think he called his film company 40 Acres or something like that. But you know what I mean? It's just something that never happened. And again, by the way, when it comes to treaties, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan mentioned in his talk a few minutes ago, talked about the Native Americans. And whether you appreciate it or not, there were so many treaties signed between the Native Americans, the so-called Indians, and the white man who was basically invading and colonizing and taking over the land which is now become North America, or the United States of America. Do you know that not one of those treaties that was ever signed by that Caucasian has ever been honored? And you can look at all of the treaties that were signed with us, and not one has ever been honored, you see? And so it's just important for us to appreciate that if it was a genuine deal, if it was a genuine treaty, if we were genuinely free, we should have something, some document that we can show that says you are free. And when it says you are free, it means that you're literally free from the grip or the control of that which you were formerly enslaved to. And I'm pretty sure that if it was a genuine, like for instance, right now, a part of the argument or a part of the stalemate over the negotiations between the Israelis and the Palestinians is that the Palestinians are saying not only do they want a complete ceasefire in Gaza, but they also want guarantees that the people the over 2 million people who have been displaced from their homes because their homes have been completely decimated, destroyed, reduced to rubble, that those people will have the right to return to their former places of abode. See? Now, and as far as Hamas and the Palestinian negotiators are concerned, they're not prepared to compromise on that because that's a critical thing. That's a very, very important thing. So if you and I were kidnapped from Africa, sold into bondage, destroyed as a human reality over a protracted period of time running into 400 years, and then the time of our freedom comes, surely there is an obligation on those who we worked from can't see morning to can't see night for all of those hundreds of years for nothing, and suffered death and destruction and mayhem, rape and debauchery under that system. Surely then there would be provisions and arrangements made for some type of recompense, for some type of compensation, for some type of provision that would allow us now to be able to start to rebuild our lives. Nothing like that was ever put in place. And so this is why you got to understand, dear family, that the freedom that we like to talk about is really in word only. Okay, this is talk. This isn't a reality. And the enemy knew that, but unfortunately, for us, a lot of us, we take people at their word. We really think that people are like us, maybe, and when they say something, they actually mean it. But in reality, dear family, that is not the case. Now, in the UK, in the United Kingdom, Emancipation Day is observed on the 1st of August each year, because on this date, in 1834, okay, so that's before America. And, this is one of the things that the British like to boast. Oh, they were the first to abolish slavery. Really? And they were the worst enslavers, starting in the year 1555 when John Hawkins came into Africa on a ship named Jesus. Okay. But anyway, on this date in 1834, slavery was officially abolished throughout Britain's colonies following the approval of the Slavery Abolition Act 12 months earlier. So you've got 1833, 1834 when this process unfolded. According to the writer of this particular article, Nathaniel Andrews, since the 16th century, Britain had perpetuated appalling crimes against humanity, participating in a trade that saw the forced removal of at least 12 million people from Africa to the Americas. Let me tell you something. When I hear that figure, 12 million, let me tell you something. That is such an undercount, such an underestimate, because according to some conservative estimates, over 100 million Africans lost their lives in the Middle Passage alone. That's just on the journey across the Atlantic over those 4 centuries. Now you're talking about 12 million. 12 million, that's a drop in the ocean compared to the reality of how many of us were transported and how many of us ultimately lost our lives and suffered and died in that process of enslavement. These people, this is according to Nathaniel Andrews, talking about the enslaved, talking about our ancestors. These people, having endured horrific conditions on board slave ships, usually spent the rest of their lives laboring on plantations to produce popular European commodities such as sugar, cotton, and tobacco. Many did not survive the Middle Passage across the Atlantic. It is estimated that around 15%, and again, this 15% is it's a joke, but again, you know, one of the things that we have to appreciate is that if we don't write our own history, if we don't tell our own stories, whenever the enemy tells our story, he's never, ever going to represent it in truth. You see, and because he represents it to some degree, you know, we're so happy. Oh, look, you know, no. He still will manipulate it in such a way that you will never, ever fully appreciate the magnitude of what we suffered and what we went through. And so it says it is estimated that around 15% died during the voyage. It makes it sound like like, you know, some nice cruise that we were on. But those who did reach the Caribbean and America were enslaved for life, and their descendants entered slavery at birth. So remember, dear family, yes, we were enslaved for life. And even though many of us today believe that we have been set free, in truth, the enslavement continues just in another phase, in another way, because they never had any intention of us going free. I mean, really free, genuinely free. Again, it is important for us to appreciate why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on various occasions has made the statement, I am a free Black man. And I've got to say again, dear family, one of the reasons why we like to play the minister at the start of the Image and Nation show is because we are trying to give you a hint, give you a view, give you an image of what a free Black man actually looks like and sounds like. And you see, if you're listening to him as a Black man, I'm not going to talk to the sisters right now, but if you're listening to him as a Black man and he makes you nervous, if you're listening to him as a Black man and you're afraid and you're thinking, oh my God, how can he say that? Oh, that's so controversial. See, what that demonstrates is that we have not yet approached manhood. You see, because that's the expression of a free man. And unfortunately today, most of us as men, as so-called Black men, we don't speak, we don't act like a free man. We are operating within the confines of somebody else's parameters. Dear family, Salima Hadi, this is this sister here, that's her name, marches in the Juneteenth reparations rally in Newark on Friday. Now, again, I'm not sure whether this is this year's Juneteenth or whether it may even been as far back as 2002. It's really irrelevant. It's just to say that I'm trying to show you how I deliberately was just trying to show here how Juneteenth takes place Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you know, again, just to show that it's not necessarily the one day, the 19th, that it takes place on. So Juneteenth reparation rally, Newark, on Friday. She has HR 40 written on her face, and we'll get into what that's all about in a second, HR 40. But what I liked about this particular picture, she's got the red, black, and green. that many of our Pan-Africanist brothers and sisters use as the flag, as a symbol of that consciousness when it comes to our desire to be a free and conscious African people. And, you know, obviously she is about the principle of reparations, which I like because, you know, what it demonstrates is that rather than treating Juneteenth as a holiday, it's more as a reminder, a commemoration, and a demonstration of something much more profound, something much more serious in terms of how we got to be approaching these things. Because, dear family, we as a people have suffered so much that we may not understand it, we really may not appreciate it, but when you have suffered in the way in which Black people have suffered in the Western Hemisphere, believe it or not, we are constantly, subconsciously seeking ease. And what do I mean by that? We any excuse for a party, any excuse for a dance, you see, this is psychologically what has happened to us because we have lived in abject poverty and suffering for so long that this is something that we constantly crave in order to alleviate and to lighten the heaviness and the load. You know, because I listen to people all the time, and I know that sometimes when we go to our people with the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as taught and exemplified by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, one of the things that I've heard on numerous occasions is that, man, that's just too heavy. It's too much. It's like we can't handle anything that forces us to, one, acknowledge truth, and two, to go beneath the surface of a thing, to dig deep into it in order to really fully understand or grasp it. It's too much for a lot of us as a people. We'd rather not know. Yeah, we'd rather not know. Yeah. We'd rather skate along the surface and not look too deep into these things, which is very, very sad. You see, now HR 40 first proposed by the Michigan Democrat, proposed in 1989 by Michigan Democrat John Conyers. And it's a House Resolution 40. That's what HR stands for. House Resolution 40 was reintroduced annually, okay, you know, because he introduced it in 1989, but then it was reintroduced annually up to his retirement in 2017. That's over 30 years, okay, that this man has been basically suggesting that we as a people deserve reparations, and that reparations should be on the agenda of the American government in terms of compensating Black people for what we have been through. But, you know, he introduced it in 1989 and he retired, and it remains there without any action whatsoever. And so it's now, it was voted down, okay? He retired in 2017 only for it to be voted down. So they even rejected HR 40. And then recently it's been championed by another Black legislator, Sheila Jackson Lee, who is another Democrat of Texas, and the bill still faces uncertain prospects. though it has in President Joe Biden. Listen to these people, right? It has in President Joe Biden, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi the support of three of the nation's most powerful politicians. Oh, really? Oh, really? So they support H.R. 40, which essentially talks about reparations for Black people. Well, let's see how far their support takes it. Let's see how far their support ultimately, goes when it comes to justice coming to us as a people. That's like saying, the French and the British and the Americans, all these years that they've been giving aid to Africa. Have you seen Africa develop under any of that aid? No, and it's not gonna happen because they're not giving aid for the development of Africa. They're giving aid to stop Africa from developing itself. You see, that's like feeding somebody drugs to keep them in a stupor, to keep them high or low, as the case may be, so that they never wake up and become cognizant of the fact that actually they could do something for themselves. What was the minister saying not long ago when he was talking about how they've got us looking in the sky to a heaven in the sweet by and by, and while they have heaven right here on earth? This is trickery on an epic scale. But whether you care to believe it or not, dear family, this is what's taking place as we speak, and this is what's been taking place for hundreds of years with Black people in the Western Hemisphere. Now, so that's Juneteenth. They call it Freedom Day, June the 19th, and the other image represents the 1st of August in the UK. You can see a UK policeman there, and it says, "You stole us, you sold us, you owe us reparations now." Reparations now. And again, dear family, if Juneteenth, Freedom Day, is to be believed, if these fists being held up in the air are to have any resonance or any real strength, then freedom has to be or has to become a reality. You see? But again, unfortunately, I think we talk freedom, Sister Claudia, but very few of us appreciate that we have to learn to walk freedom. There's a big difference between the talking and the walking. You see, and we can't walk freedom unless we are willing to take freedom and go free. What does that mean? In the early days of the Imagination Show, I talked a lot about separation. I'm going to go back to the subject. That subject is not something that's been exhausted, nor a subject that we're going to leave behind, you see, because we have to separate. Again, if we're free, it means to be independent. When a woman gives birth to a child, they are attached by a cord, okay? And that cord is critically important while the baby is growing in the womb, for the baby to be fed via the mother. But once that baby is born, once that baby becomes separated from mother in a physical sense, then at a certain point within, a few minutes, maximum an hour or so, that cord, after it stops pulsating and the life has been properly emitted from her, that cord has to be cut. It has to be severed. You see, think about that. Think about the severing of that umbilical cord You know, to an ignorant person, oh my God, you can't cut that. You can't cut the baby. But to an enlightened, intelligent human being, you know that the cutting of that cord is not something wicked or bad. The baby is not going to blow away like a balloon that's, you know, the end of it's been released and now all of the air is going to come out. It's not like that, but it's necessary that there is a severing of that physical tie where the baby was feeding in one way. Now the baby has to learn to feed in a completely different way, still from mother, but different. You see? And then at a certain point of the growth and development of that child's life, there comes a point, we've had children move out of the house, haven't we? There comes a point where the children get so big and become independent that they then move completely out of your house. My wife still talks to my daughter, I think 10, 15,000 times a day. They're always on the phone. But the point is, see, I'm trying to show you how the connection remains, but yet separation. And I know some of us, it's like we're terrified at the idea of separation from our former slave masters and their children. But it's not as bad as I think you think it would be.
Would be free.
Oh man, you know, you see, it doesn't mean that you wouldn't be able to interact with other people or even do business or you know, I don't know why we're so afraid of being with our own kith and kin by ourselves, doing something for ourselves and not being beholden or dependent or attached to another people who historically have proven that the attachment is actually not good for us. You know that if the cord is not cut between the mother and the baby, you do realize that both of them become contaminated and both of them die. I hope you understand that. You see, there are things in life that if they're not severed, then they become detrimental to both parties. And unfortunately, and I would say even more so for those of us in the UK, I don't think it's necessarily a lesson that we have learned or that we understand, because we've discussed this before, Sister Claudia, how in America, the separation between black and white is much more profound, even though belatedly, there seems to be a lot of integration taking place in America these days, whereas before there was a lot more separation. It seems like now they're really pushing integration. But here in the UK, integration has always been like the order of the day. You see, it's always been
well, isn't it? When our families came over from the Caribbean, there wasn't the integration.
No,
in the 60s.
No Irish, no 50s and 60s, no Irish, no blacks, no dogs. There was a clear kind of demarcation line in those days. And then, you know, as we went through the 70s and into the 80s and now the 90s, really from the 90s, they started to really push the integration and the
into certain things.
And the gentrification. The dispersal of blacks from strong enclaves of blacks. You know, dispersing black people all over the place so that there isn't that sense of community anymore.
Because we were in Brixton the other day, and it used to be black.
It used to be black. Brixton used to be black. No. Brixton is not black anymore.
No.
I think now it's probably Peckham still got.
Really?
good concentration.
Okay.
But again, not even so much. I don't think so much African Caribbean, but more so Africans
Right.
from the continent.
Okay.
And places like Hackney, there's still
Oh, no.
areas.
Yeah, that used to be black, but not
But
anymore.
not
It
anymore.
was there
Not,
the other day.
yeah, not solid, not
No.
solid like it used to be.
That's right.
And you know, this is real, dear family, because see, for a lot of us, and you know, you'll hear the white man giving you some stupid argument sometimes about, oh well, you know, what if we talked about white only areas? Well, guess what? There's plenty of white only areas in the country. Okay, plenty. You know, with 60 odd million Caucasians and just around maximum 7 or 8 million non-whites in the country. Believe me, the vast majority of places you go out in the countryside in these places, it's white people. Okay, solid white. Go ahead.
When we were in central London the other day, and that used to be, you see a lot of white people, but now we thought we was in a foreign place.
There was a particular area where
Bayswater.
Yeah, Bayswater, so many Arabs.
Yeah, you'd have thought you was in the Holy Land or something.
Yeah. So it's all changing.
All changing.
It's all changing.
Right.
But dear family, as Black people, as Africans, as African Americans, so-called, or Afro-Caribbean, so-called, we've got to have our own. We've got to separate. We've got to be able to demonstrate some independence and some freedom, which up to this point, unfortunately, we just have not. We haven't. We're still operating under the auspices of somebody else's reality. So this brother here, I don't know him. I'm pretty sure that some of you who are in America, you'll know him. His name is Carlton Anderson, and he performs during a spoken word event in Spartanburg on Friday. I'm not sure where Spartanburg is, but it's somewhere in America. On Friday again, he is wearing a Juneteenth t-shirt that says free-ish. And I thought that was interesting. When I saw the picture, I wanted to put it in one of the slides because free-ish, not quite free, you see, ish. And, you know, that's not good enough, dear brothers and sisters. We have to be free in totality. And, you know, in the Nation of Islam, we teach and we believe in freedom, justice, and equality, regardless to creed or class or color, you see? And that's for everybody. We believe that everybody should have that level of autonomy where they are free and they can justify their existence on this planet, and that nobody is standing over them and using law and other means to keep a people subjugated or in some type of bondage. But that's what we are experiencing as a people. You know, we are free-ish, you see. But if we were genuinely set free in 1865 or in 1833, 1834, according to the British side of things, then we should be seeing a whole different manifestation of our ability to do for self, you see, and to govern self, and to be able to actually have some of this land that we can call our own.
That's what I was just about to read.
Go ahead.
So this is again the teachings, the Twitter book, Twitter sayings of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, compiled by our brother Kian Mohammed. And the question, somebody asked a question: when will it be time to aggressively seek a separation state or territory? The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan answered, the first step is to acquire land from which we can produce our necessities of life. This will ultimately lead to a separate state or territory of our own.
Beautiful. Do that again for me,
Yes.
please, Sister Claudia. Could you read it again, please? I got distracted.
Yes, I
Looking at it.
noticed.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The question was, when will it be time to aggressively seek a separate state or territory? The Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan answered, the first step is to acquire land from which we can produce our necessities of life. This will ultimately lead to a separate state or territory of our own.
Praise be to Allah. So the question was talking about aggressively seizing land.
Mhm.
But the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan really didn't, say that we have to go down that particular
right.
road. We just have to acquire the land.
That's right.
And again, I know that some of our brothers and sisters in America have started
That's right.
doing that, coming together,
That's right.
pooling resources. And again, whatever you see other people doing, we can do the same. But the reason why we don't do the same is because we don't act like other people in terms of that mentality of pooling resources. You see, it's like we've been miseducated to the degree where we don't trust other Black people and we don't want to put our monies together and work as a collective. And unfortunately for some of us, we've been so miseducated that we think it's actually wrong for Black people to want to have our own, to do for self, to have our own schools, to have our own hospitals, to have our own community. But we're the only ones who think like that. You can't tell that to Chinese. China, you got big China, it's got nuclear weapons, got an economy that's absolutely shaking up the entire planet right now. But you go in every major city, in every European country, including right here in the UK, in every major city, you find a Chinatown. Why is that? Because Chinese people are highly intelligent people. And wherever they go, they know that they've got to have a stronghold in that place. Even if they're in a foreign land, they've got to have a Chinatown. Okay? Asian people do the same thing. They got Southall. I mean, man, you might as well say they own Wembley, Brick Lane, and these places. Even if it's just a lane, even if it's just a street, doesn't matter. But you've got to determine that, you know what, we want to control this territory. Okay, to the point where you go to somewhere like Southall, you'll see Indian police officers, some of who may be Sikhs. And they will have the badge, the police badge on their turban.
They don't wear helmets.
They're not wearing a helmet, they're wearing a turban because that's the man's religion and it's respected within that force, but he is policing his own community.
That's right.
You see? And all other communities do this except for Black people.
There's another question. So somebody asks a question, get land with what? How do we get the money?
Yes. This is what they're asking the minister.
Yes. And the minister answered, we have money for everything else that we would want and need. And if you listen to my lecture, it's not you by yourself, but it's 5 million of us sacrificing a nickel a day. If we did that just for 1 year, we would have billions of dollars to buy land and become producers of what we consume. Your and my nickels and the nickels of others will make us all beneficiaries of what we sacrifice to bring into existence.
Praise be to Allah. But unfortunately, again, we see those nickels and dimes as being worthless. We don't understand that when an individual has some nickels and dimes or pennies, as the case may be when it comes to sterling, and pounds or dollars, that an individual's money, yes, it may be very limited, it may not be much, but when you have several individuals coming together,
Yes.
putting that little bit together, it mounts up. And before you know it, you start to make an impact in terms of being able to pool resources, in terms of being able to save together, and then ultimately to be able to afford a piece of land. And it can be done. And we have a lot of money collectively.
That's right.
Even though individually we may be struggling, we have collective money. But because we refuse to do what other people take for granted, I want you to hear what I'm saying. Other people take it for granted that they know that they have to pool resources in order to survive. Okay. And they have their own institutions and they create things that are for the benefit of themselves. They have what's called self-interest. We're the only people on the planet who have no self-interest. And again, like I said, based on miseducation, we will actually argue against self-interest, because when the Chinese come together, you don't hear nobody accusing the Chinese of being racist because they want to stick together. You don't hear them accusing the Asians as in South Asians, because in America they refer to Chinese or Oriental as Asians, but Asians in the sense of the South Indians who are here. You don't hear people accusing them of racism because but as soon as black people determined to get together, oh, that's reverse racism. What are you all doing in there? And you got to let us in. We've got to be a part of it. And this is, dear family, you know, one of the most diabolical things that you got to understand. The fear of us coming together. See, they know something about us that we don't seem to know about ourselves. Just how powerful and potentially magnificent we are as a people, and what we could do if we did do what other people do for themselves. You see? And so the idea is to make us to believe that no, we can't do that. And you know what I mean? And if we did try, it wouldn't work. And you can never get black people to unite. I hear that talk so much. You know, I've spoken to black people, and I hear black people telling me that nonsense about, oh, no, black people could never unite, and you know, you're wasting your time or whatever. And when I hear that, you know, I think to myself, do you actually realize what you're telling me? You see, you're actually asking me to give up on myself. Because if I give up on my people, I've just given up on myself. You see, I know that I'm not going anywhere without my people. As a man, I'm not going anywhere without the black woman. And there's a lot of black women now, they seem to think that they can, you know, they're going in some other direction. Yeah, you know, I don't need no black man, and I'm, you know, they're going over to the other side and whatever. You're not going anywhere neither without the black man, and vice versa. Watch and see. I'm saying just hang around a few days, because it's all going to come home. You know, because what we've fallen for is a proper trick. You see, because I think the scripture says it like this: birds of a feather flock together. And there's a time coming when each one will have to return to his own vine and fig tree. You have to return to your own. See, because you're not going to be accepted or acceptable among another people who are not your people. You see, and I know, again, people say, oh yeah, but we're all human beings, we all bleed red blood. And yeah, well, you'll see, you'll find out. You know, Chinese people are not the same as Japanese people. Did you know that? Some of us can't tell the difference between a Chinese, a Japanese, and a Korean. But you go and call a Korean a Japanese and watch how upset they get. Because see, everybody understands their own unique reality and they want to be themselves. Okay? And if them people realize that they're separate and distinct people, and here we are, black people, Africans, and we think that we're exactly the same as a Caucasian white man from Europe, you must be joking. You must be joking. But that's how some of us think. You see? And our entire aim is to integrate out of ourselves, disintegrate within ourselves and integrate into something and someone else. It's a real shame, and we will never be respected as a people as long as another people can look at us and realize, look, there's a people there that they haven't got an independent thought. They don't want to be who God made them to be. You see, there's scripture in the Bible that talks about in that day, there'll be a separation between the sheep and the goat. You really think the scripture is talking about sheep and goats? No, it's talking about human beings with the characteristics of the sheep and the goat. And even though there's a relationship between those two creatures, they are very different in their nature, in their character. So, dear family, we are dealing with this subject of Juneteenth and, why it's important for us to really appreciate the time that we're in and what all of this means. Members of the Victory Dancers Crenshaw District Dance Team perform at the Leimert Park Juneteenth Festival in Los Angeles on Saturday, June 18th, 2022. See, that was in 2022. But again, see, it's on a Saturday, that particular situation was taking place. But, I was just thinking when I was looking at this particular image, our little sisters, I can just imagine the kind of dance that they were throwing down and how powerful, dressed in their African print garments, But again, I was just reflecting on how, as a people, we are natural singers, natural dancers. We got this natural rhythm. During our enslavement, they banned the drum. We were not allowed to play the drum because the drum, back in the day, we literally could talk to one another over distances using the drum. We had language that we used, just the same today as the Caucasian back in the day in the First and Second World War. He could tap out what he called Morse code, and he could speak using a series of taps that could be translated into words. Well, guess what? We could use the sound of the drum and communicate language to one another as a people. And so we know that there's a place for dance as a means of expression, as a means of communication as a people. But there is a danger, in my humble opinion, that rather than, because, there's such a thing as a war dance, you see? So it's not that, like I used to watch my brothers and sisters in South Africa during the apartheid era, when they would do some serious chanting and some serious moves, some serious war dancing. And it was all about the unification of a people and the expression of a desire for freedom and liberation from that oppressive system of apartheid. But where the danger lies is when, instead of it being an expression, see, like this little sister in the front here, she's got her fist clenched and she's really expressing something in her movements. See, the dance, when the dance is like that, when the dance is about our liberation, it's powerful, man.
There's meaning.
Yeah, but we have to be careful that we're not just dancing for the sake of dancing and the sake of entertainment. This is what I don't like, where, oftentimes what we are doing in terms of these days that we are commemorating, it starts off with one purpose. It's like the Notting Hill Carnival. The Notting Hill Carnival began as a protest against racism and mob attacks taking place in West London in the Notting Hill area. Look at the carnival today. It's unrecognizable as anything to do with protest or liberation. Now it's been taken over by corporate Britain, and it's become a place of just debauchery and capitalization, where they're just literally corporate Britain is just making a whole bunch of money, and it's also training ground for the police to try out their kettling tactics and crowd control and all this kind of stuff, using us as the guinea pigs. You see? So when we're talking about Juneteenth and African Liberation Day and Emancipation Day, what I'm warning is for us not to allow these days and these events to become about frolicking and about entertainment and about carnival, as opposed to what they're supposed to be about, which is to galvanize our people together, to unify us, to remind us of what has happened and how we must continue the movement toward our complete liberation. Go ahead, sister.
Yes, because it's like, okay, that's done, Juneteenth. So then what happens next? Then you go back to sleep. That's why I heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan reminding us, like, okay, you can quote the Holy Quran, you can say your prayers, but what you do? Yeah. How are you living your life?
Yeah.
But that's the point, that we have to live the liberation. We've got to live the change that we want to change. It's not going to change.
What is it they say? Be the change you want to see.
That's right.
And that's a key thing, what you're saying, Sister Claudia, that you see, anyone can talk.
Yes, we can all talk.
But who's willing to do?
That's right.
And to be that thing.
That's right.
That and again, see, because that takes courage. Because it's not everybody that's going to be in the vanguard of such a move. But somebody, you see, one of the reasons why I love the minister so much is because that man's been prepared to go out in front and risk his life.
Sacrifice his family.
On behalf of a whole people. Now, we know that most people don't even understand, don't really appreciate what that man has done and is continuing to do. But those of us who recognize that work and that sacrifice, see, we can't stand on the side cheerleading. Yeah, go ahead, Farrakhan. No, man, we got to pick up our cross and follow that example and step where that man has stepped and do what that man does. See, family, this is the challenge that faces all of us today. See, because I'm not about being in that crowd, watching my little sisters, dance. That's just not going to free us. And I hope we appreciate that, the enemy loves to see us, gather and dance and sing. And even some say the right words. We say the words, but they know that there's no action coming behind those words. This is another Juneteenth day. Children play in a fountain at Centennial Olympic Park in Atlanta. This is in Georgia during a Juneteenth celebration on Saturday. And again, I'm not suggesting that our children shouldn't be allowed to have fun. But to me, not necessarily on Juneteenth. You see, again, it turns into this holiday, frolicking around type of thing, when surely if it's to commemorate our freedom, which we've not yet achieved, then it should be a more serious endeavor. And such days as this, which to me are beautiful days when children can go and play in fountains or in water or whatever, but don't conflate our liberation with that type of thing, because then before you know it, it's going to become all about this as opposed to the serious business of addressing our condition.
That's right.
I don't know if you are following what I'm saying, dear family, but I'm talking about things that I'm witnessing and seeing going on with us, and we don't appear to be very, very serious anymore about what these dates mean, what they stand for, and the fact that we haven't yet been liberated, the fact that we're not yet free, the fact that, you know, they're talking now, I think they've just introduced a new law in America now about the draft.
Yes, that was a question.
Really?
Ronald Thompson, I believe.
Yeah, if you can read it out at some point, Sister Claudia. And, you know, it's unfortunate, but guess who the majority of those young people who are going to be going into the American military and the British military to be used as cannon fodder to go and die via a Russian bullet or a Russian bomb or a Chinese bullet or a Chinese bomb? Who do you think are these young people are going to be? They're going to be mostly our young people. While we are not preparing them for freedom and liberation from a system that only wants to use them when that system gets into trouble through their own mischief making and troublemaking on a global scale.
That was the Brother Ronald Thompson asks, what do you think about US military draft?
Yeah, I think it's a horrible, horrible trick. Once again, the European mentality is a war-like mentality. And when I say European, I'm talking about the Caucasians who run North America. I'm talking about the Australians. I'm talking about the New Zealanders. I'm talking about, you know, all of these European nations, Britain included, Israel, you know, they can't help themselves. Wherever they go, they create trouble for the native and indigenous people who mostly look like me and you, brown and yellow people. And because they've had control, they've had hegemony on the planet for so long, and their time to rule is now up, they can't get to grips with that reality that their inordinate control is now over, and that we're now living in the time of the rise of the indigenous. We're now living in a time where the scripture says that the last shall be first. The bottom rail will now be lifted to the top. They can't handle that reality. And so in their mishandling of the reality of their own demise, the fall of the American empire, the fall of the total annihilation of the British Empire, in their disbelief, in their desire to stay in control and stay in power, they just create more and more mischief, causing now the fermentation towards outright war. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has already told us the Third World War has begun. It's been going for some time, dear family. We are, as we're speaking right now, we are in a world at war. And one of the targets in that war is you and I. Okay? Because the enemy does not want to give up his hegemony, does not want to give up his power, does not want to give way to those that God is now rising up to take our rightful place back where we belong. As it was in the beginning. In the beginning, we walked with God. We were the children of the Most High God. As it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the ending. In the ending of this wicked world of evil that enslaved us for 400 years, destroyed us as a human reality. Now that episode is coming to an end, but this is an enemy who doesn't go quietly. Okay, he comes in via warfare, and he goes out via warfare. This is his nature. This is his character. He can't help himself. Okay, Israel was formed in war. 1948. It was the original Nakba, where up to 1 million Palestinians were displaced. The figure goes from 750,000 up to 1 million that were displaced from their homes. Many of those today in what's called the Gaza Strip are from that refugee crisis that was created in 1948. And as it was in 1948, we're now living through a modern day Nakba 0.2. Okay, and this is how ultimately Israel is going out. Their mask has completely slipped, and they're showing the world who they really are. This is the man of sin who is to be revealed, and he's revealing himself. And so, dear family, you know, we're living in very perilous times, and we can't afford to be just frolicking in a time of peril. See, especially if we claim to be acknowledging or commemorating such a thing as Juneteenth or the 1st of August, so-called Emancipation Day. Go ahead, Sister.
I'll just read a snippet of the article, Juneteenth, a time for reflections, honest questions. This is by Brother Michael Z. Muhammad.
Where is this from?
Final Call
newspaper.
Yeah.
Okay.
It says, just as you were saying, as Juneteenth gains national recognition, transitioning from a lesser-known historical observance and commemoration into mainstream awareness, it prompts some people to reflect on its significance more deeply and ask critical questions. Originally commemorating the so-called emancipation of enslaved Blacks in Texas on June the 19th, 1865, 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, for many Blacks, Juneteenth was and is referred to as Black Independence Day. The day has recently seen a rise in parades, picnics, and commercial festivities, which risk overshadowing its historical and cultural importance. Activists and historians emphasize that this day should be more than a celebration. It should serve as an opportunity for further research and reflection on the enduring legacy of slavery and the ongoing struggle for freedom, justice, and equality for Black people in America.
Wow.
Juneteenth was made an official U.S. federal holiday after the May 25th, 2020 murder of George Floyd, a Black man, by former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin. How do you say his name?
Yeah, chauvinistic pig.
Who is white. His death sparked protests in the US and abroad. The US House of Representatives and Senate passed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act in June 2021. The bill was signed by President Joe Biden on June the 17th, 2021, making it a federal holiday. The decision to make Juneteenth a federal holiday was met with mixed feelings, with critics stating it was more symbolism without substance, and a means to distract or pacify Black folks.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and it worked.
Oh,
Jam up.
Absolutely.
See, just think about that. See, this is the point I'm trying to make. Up to that point, Juneteenth was something, really powerful,
Yes.
in terms of what it was acknowledging. But come the events surrounding the murder of George Floyd, then the enemy decided to co-opt it by now making it into a national holiday.
That's
now,
right.
we who are surface dwellers, we're all excited. Wow, Joe Biden is giving us a holiday. Yeah. My God, no, family. They've just now steered the thing into another direction now. Into another direction. Nothing to do with our liberation any longer, you see. And this is how this system works, brothers and sisters. No people celebrate death like Black people. We have known so much death that we've become masters when it comes to the rituals and celebrations of death. But we prefer to call it a celebration of life because it sounds better. But listen carefully to the preachers and you will see that death is the state we should be looking forward to. This is what you'll hear them telling you in the church. You see, again, we've been tricked, you see, and we have become, masters at death because we've known so much death. And even though we use the language of, oh, it's a celebration of life, in reality, dear family, we are a people who have embraced death literally as a way of life. And we have been convinced by the preacher that we don't have to worry about this life so much because when we die, we're going to a better place.
The thought of coming to England was exciting because I'd never traveled before. We came in October, which the weather was beautiful. And I thought, oh yes, this is it. I'm going to love this place. And then November came and I changed my mind. When I just started living here and seeing funerals, people were just bringing their old habits from home.
I think they're regarded as quirky. Everybody rushes around and supports the family, and everybody talks happily and excitedly about the person. It's certainly not a case of mourning.
Funerals in Jamaica was an occasion because everybody joined in. You didn't have to be invited. You heard that somebody has died, hallelujah, and you...
Just think about it. Just imagine. You don't even know the person.
No. You don't.
You don't have to be invited. You're just showing up at a funeral. And we know people who do that, right?
Yes, my mother.
I mean, we love a funeral.
Yeah.
It's like we really come into our own when it comes to burying people or death itself. Right. It's something that we're so familiar with that it's become a way of life. And we no longer see it necessarily in a negative because we see it as our passage, our transition from this wicked life into a better life. This is how they've got us thinking, dear family. And I just want us to really appreciate just how deep this goes.
It's literally a time for a party. It's sad, it's very sad, but they would gather and they would take the odd or two bottles of...
Time for a party. Imagine. And remember, see, for a lot of the people, our people, they die. And then you got all of these people show up at the funeral, talking nice words about the person. But while that person was living, They never had no time for them. And in fact, they may not have even spoken to that person. And they probably hated that person with a passion while they lived. But on come the death, all of a sudden, now it's a time to get the rum out, get the beers out, and have a good time at the funeral.
And they would take the odd or two bottles of alcohol, rum and whiskey, beer, tins of beer and food. So everybody fell in.
The biggest tradition, I would say, is that a Caribbean funeral is a definite celebration of life. Most of the funerals we deal with are perhaps more a mourning of the death, and that is a distinct difference there.
Normal black funerals, it's like 350 plus all the time. The planning for it takes a long time. There's a lot of prep that goes into it, probably about 4 days, but that's just the prepping. So we make like jerk chicken, curried mutton, do ackee, hard food and stuff like that. So all the typical Jamaican dishes.
It's a time where you need friends and loved ones to be around you. Some people might not talk for a while, and some behavior might went on. But when death does take place, it's a different concept. It doesn't matter if they know you or not. They're going to be there.
As soon as you hear a person's died, the word starts to spread around the community, but then the family also have a very important job to do. Wash the body. It's their last loving act that they can do for the person, and I think that's one of our traditions that's cute. Yeah, because as you do it, you're talking to them, again saying thank you and appreciation for what that person has done for you. And it just seems natural, People do have the body at home for the 9 nights. That doesn't happen too much nowadays, certainly the 50s, 60s.
I was explaining this to my children the other day, and they were appalled. They were so shocked that the historic tradition of this 9-night situation is that back in the day, they would have the coffin in the house with the body in the coffin for literally 9 nights. Okay, and some of the tradition was that it was the idea was that after the person dies, then they would have a kind of get together on the 9th night after they've passed, because and they would have the body in the casket in the house. You see, because if the body hasn't recovered or gotten up in that time, then they were sure that the person was dead. Okay, because they didn't want to bury the person alive. So after 9 days and nights, then surely they've genuinely gone. But in that time period, they'd be drinking, partying, playing dominoes, doing all of these kind of things within the house. I think nowadays that the 9 nights has now maybe shrunk to just really 1 night. Maybe they'll do it in terms of the kind of party and that goes on. But essentially, death has become again a celebration. It's something that we do very, very well, family.
That doesn't happen too much nowadays. Certainly the 50s, 60s, 70s, that was quite a custom.
It's a way to celebrate, the person's lives, for 9 nights, following their death.
I just thought I wanted to bring that in because I think it's it kind of fits in with this celebrating this kind of the so-called end of our enslavement, where it's not ended, family. We haven't been let go. We haven't been set free, you see, but we are prematurely celebrating, having a party, and the process has not yet ended. In our studies, in our study guide, I think the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talking about how, whilst a person is still on the move, you can't judge, you can't, their testament is not over until they've
and their life
till their life is over. Then you can make a judgment about that life. Then you can be definitive in terms of, okay, what did that person's life mean? But whilst they're living and moving and doing things, you can't make a judgment because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know why they're doing what they're doing today. This is a picture of our people in attendance at a Juneteenth celebration in New York, Times Square, on Sunday, the 16th of June. So again, you know, imagine this is Times Square, one of the busiest junctions in New York, but you see the way we've taken it over, so many people sitting down, presumably watching something taking place on a stage or whatever. But again, it's, in my humble opinion, Juneteenth has been taken over.
Oh, yes.
You see, when it becomes this type of thing where it's not necessarily about our liberation, but it's making us comfortable in a kind of party atmosphere. I'm just trying to show, you know, some of the different types of events. More of our people attend the Juneteenth celebration in New York's Fort Greene Park on Sunday, 16th of June. Now it's the picnic, it's the, you know,
it's more relaxed,
everybody in the park type of thing, which again, I've got nothing against these types of gatherings. We had a gathering like this not long ago on Father's Day for one of our daughter's birthday. Beautiful, you know, it's beautiful. And to me, the more people can come together and do things together, to me, it's a wonderful thing. But don't do it on Juneteenth like that, where that now becomes just a little party and we lose the essence of the fact that this is about the liberation of a people from 400 years of bondage and the most heinous treatment ever meted out to any people in the annals of history. That's what you're dealing with. And then somebody is going to reduce it to just having a picnic. And that's just, to me, an error. And people are just not understanding why history is so critically important when it comes to our research. This is Shaka Khan. She performs during the Juneteenth celebration at the Hollywood Bowl in Los Angeles on Sunday, 16th of June. Again, I'm not sure what year this is, whether this could be this year, it could be 2023, 2022, one of those, 2021. But, you know, again, Shaka Khan is awesome. That's a powerful, beautiful sister.
That's right.
But again, if it becomes just a stage show where it's about our celebrities and our entertainers rapping or singing or dancing or whatever, we have to be careful, dear family, because, you know, this partying mentality, where as a people, we suffered so much that, you know, this is why at Christmas, the enemy would allow us on that day to get drunk and to party, basically. Hence why today, you don't see nobody celebrate Christmas as hard as we do as a people, and the way we drink and the type of traditions that we've developed now with the eggnog and the rum and what is it they do, like a special pork joint and all this kind of stuff. Ham and all of this. I mean, we again, we've taken that onto a whole different level, you see, and all of the lights and the trees and whatever. I was doing a job last Christmas, and I went to a house and there was all of these Christmas decorations outside and the massive blown up
Inflatables, the Santa.
Satan
Oh,
claws outside and the reindeers and everything. And when I went to the door, I literally was expecting a white family. No, beloved, black people. Black people.
We take it on to another level.
And in my estimation, just the amount of stuff that they had on the outside of the house, never mind what they had on the inside, but on the outside of the house and the level of lights that was there, it must have cost them an absolute fortune.
Ridiculous.
But this is where they've got some of our heads at.
Yes.
You see, where we see that type of behavior as something that we really need because we've been so deprived of joy, of celebration, that any excuse we get, even the excuse of celebrating death, you know, we will make the most of that, and the music and the drinking and the smoking and the, you know what I mean? And it will just be, it's just an excuse, but we lose the essence of what this thing really should be all about. I hope you're all following, dear family, and I hope you all get it. Sister Claudia, you can start looking through some of these so that we can address some of it. I don't know the sister, but again, I know that brothers and sisters in America, you probably know her. Nikki, I think is her name. And it says she performs Lift Every Voice and Sing. That's a very famous song within the Black community. And she's singing this before a Major League baseball game in Oakland, California on Sunday. And again, this is, as you can see, the big billboard sign up there, Juneteenth. And again, see, they rope us in, and then it becomes part of America's sport and play. You know, it becomes detached from the essence of what it's supposed to be about. And then it becomes just like, you know, the typical Super Bowl type of appearance. And now I think it's really only us. It was Beyonce one year and then Rihanna, you know, but we do these appearances at these massive sporting events. And next thing you know, we're doing it on Juneteenth. You see, and the whole thing becomes roped into the whole system, and we don't realize that we've been co-opted, that our liberation struggle has been derailed.
We've been rocked back to sleep.
Yeah, and we're very comfortable, and you know, because we see it up in lights like that, we think, oh well, we've arrived, and the ruling powers, our former slave masters and their children, have obviously accepted us, not realizing that no, this is a derailment.
That's right.
You see, if they are going to promote something, you think they're going to promote something that's going to upend their rule and their ability to keep us enslaved and in bondage to them? No, they're not going to do that, dear family. So again, it's a trick. It's a way of keeping us asleep and ultimately under their thumb. And so, family, Juneteenth is supposed to be Freedom Day. We're supposed to be breaking chains, you know what I mean? And not just the chains that hold and bind our hands and our feet together. Those chains may have been physically removed, but as our beautiful brother Bob Marley said, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. Mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Our enemy is not going to free us.
That's right.
In terms of our ability to think for ourselves. He's just not going to do that. Okay. In the lecture that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was giving, he explained earlier that he who controls the diameter of your learning controls the circumference of your actions. He who controls the diameter of your learning controls the circumference of your actions. In other words, whoever is our teacher, okay, we are limited by what he teaches us in terms of how far we can go. And so we have to be the ones who educate ourselves, educate our children, and ultimately freeze ourselves, not based on what somebody else is going to allow us to do, but based on what we take the liberty to do for ourselves. You see, family? And so I hope, you know, like I said, I never really knew a great deal about Juneteenth, but hopefully all of us have had a little bit more of an education this evening about that and the connection between that and the 1st of August Emancipation Day, which is connected with the 1833, 1834 abolishment of slavery by the British, 1865 in America. But the reality is that that's what they said from their mouths, but we still haven't got the paperwork that proves that we are actually free. Every bit of paperwork that we have is still connected back to our former slave masters and their children. And ultimately, we have to be able to produce and create paperwork of our own, which is the mark of a free man and a free woman. When we are building our own institutions, we have our own world. Don't mean that we can't interact with other people, but God helps the child who has his own. We have to have our own. God has come to give us our own. God has come to separate us from Pharaoh. Moses never integrated the children of Israel with the Egyptians. He came and he told the Egyptians, he told Pharaoh, Almighty God Allah says, let my people go. We have not yet gone for ourselves.
Still holding on.
Yeah, and see, he let us go, but we're still clinging on to him. And it's time, dear family, to let go. All right. So I pray that, you know, something that we have shared is of benefit. And I'm going to let Sister Claudia point out to me any little things that she wanted me to address based on what some of you have been sharing this evening.
There was a question. Why are we here as in humans?
Why are we here as in humans? It's a beautiful question. And the short, succinct answer is to get to know ourselves, and it's to get to know God. It's to answer that question, who is God? And when we are able to answer that question, we will know who we are. And if we can answer the question, who we are, then we answer the question, who is God? Because there's a relationship there. We are one and the same. That's literally what life is all about. Life is all about finding out who we are and who God is. And it's profound, it's deep, it's awesome, it's so beautiful, dear beloved family. But it's getting to know who we really are as human beings and what is our relationship with the creator of the heavens and the earth. In my humble opinion, that's the answer that we glean from the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Go ahead, sister.
Bawana says reparations is not only tangible, it is also psychological. Money can't repair that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, you know, reparations money comes into it, but really money is such a small part of it. And ultimately, you know, real reparations begins with us.
That's right.
And we are the ones who can actually repair ourselves. And we are the only ones who can repair ourselves. But the white man signing a check and giving us some money, no, beloved.
That would be gone in the evening.
Well, and guess who it'd be gone to? It'd be gone right back
to
the same white man.
right.
See? So it's not about a check and having some money. It's really much deeper than that. And it's really about us repairing ourselves.
That's right.
And part of the repair, again, is to come to the realization of what it means to be a black man and what it means to be a black woman. Because it's not what our enemy has made us and how we see ourselves. No, there's much more to us than living in somebody else's reality.
Right.
You see?
And
you know,
building their reality.
Yeah, and we've built their reality.
Right.
We've built a heaven on earth for them,
and continue to support it day after day.
And we're just marking time, waiting to die to go to a heaven in the sky that does not exist.
That's right.
Dear family.
Okay. Queen Jane's version says, with all the spending power in our possession, what are we waiting for? Very good question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As a people, we are a very rich people in terms of the amount of money that goes through our hands on a yearly basis. In the UK, apparently it's over 300 million that goes through the hands of the black community each and every year. That's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money, dear family. Go ahead.
Ronald Thompson says, we are going to wait until the last minute when the system crashes, to do something for ourselves.
Yeah, and the problem with that is that in that last minute, it may be too late. You see, those who some of us are trying to straddle both worlds. We want to keep the left foot in with the devil and the right foot with God, and we're waiting to see who is going to win, and then we think we can jump. No, God says in the scripture that those who attempt to straddle both sides, they will be in the deepest depth of the fire. Okay, in the Holy Quran, I think it uses the term, it says, those who are lukewarm, neither here nor there, those are the ones who are going to be in the depth of the fire. You see, those who can't make up their mind, those who can't choose God. You see, this day I show you two signs, one of life and one of death. Choose life. And that's it. We're in that time period now when it's make your mind up time. You've got to make a choice. You see, the minister, when he was speaking earlier, again, he said, you can't love two masters. You can't serve two masters. You have to hate one and love the other. It's make your mind up time. We've got to make a choice, you see? And those of us who claim to be good people, claim to be righteous, we can't be righteous today and unrighteous tomorrow. We can't be one thing behind the door and another thing in front of the door. We have to be this way if we are claiming to be the righteous. If we desire to be the righteous, then we should be desirous of being that 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's what we should be striving to be, dear family. Don't mean that we're perfect.
No.
Don't mean that we won't make mistakes. Don't mean that we won't slip here and slip there. But the idea must be that we are genuinely striving to be the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be in terms of being a upright man and an upright woman. You see, so that when you go to bed at night and you close your eyes, you haven't got your conscience is not plaguing you because you're reflecting on all the people that you robbed or that you hurt or that you maimed during that day. Does that make sense?
Dying daily for the Lord.
Wow, man.
Hmm.
You know, imagine, you know, being able to just go to bed at night and
Yes.
you just you
Yeah,
can put your hand on your heart and
Mhm.
you're at peace. Why? Because you know that you have harmed no man,
That's right.
no woman. You haven't done evil.
Mhm.
You're not that kind of person, and you're really trying to be a person who says what he means and means what he says and makes his word bond to the best of your ability. Isn't that worth striving for? And I believe, dear family, going back to that first question, when we really try to live in that manner, then we will really get to a point where we have a deep and a profound knowledge of ourselves
That's right.
and a deep and a profound knowledge of God.
That's right.
Go
I'll
ahead,
just
sister.
read the last few. So Stephen Brown said that is a very simple, powerful statement. We have to live the liberation, big facts. Our sister Gabrielle Muhammad said, we can't be a hearer of the word, we have to be a doer of the word. The Honorable Minister Liz Farrakhan. I'm not sure, blitz tactic, is that 9 out? What? I'm not sure. I don't want to read it wrong. Can you see? 9, what's that? 9 out of, I don't want to mess it
9
up.
out of our skin.
Yeah. Respect you.
9 out of our skin, respect you, DBN, for speaking out for all oppressed people globally. Much love, man.
Praise be.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you may be using some like slang type of terms that people use today, you know, like lol and, you know, various abbreviated
WDY.
language. But what's WDY?
What do you mean?
Oh, you see, because I don't understand. I mean, I don't understand the abbreviated language. When I write a text message, for instance, every word is written out. Okay, I don't do abbreviations and things of that nature. So please forgive us if we don't fully appreciate or understand everything that you're trying to communicate to us.
And Stephen Brown said the word Nakba means catastrophe. Be precise, as Black folks have celebrated Juneteenth for many years. It's about Black self-determination more than anything else. So it's an oxymoron to have folks taking the day off work. Praise be to Allah. 8th, electronics pacification. Paulette Grant, that's so true, Brother Leo. And Danielle E. Mohammed says, I remember, this is talking about Shaka Khan, she performed a song at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan Madison Square Garden lecture, October the 7th, 1985.
Isn't she on the minister's album as well, Let's Change the World? I think Shaka Khan, yeah. I'm sure she did something on the minister's album, Let's Change the World.
Yes.
Powerful,
Wonderful.
big album that's available to be purchased.
Yeah, make sure you get a copy of that.
Get a copy of that, dear family, because the minister has really produced a masterpiece there.
Absolutely.
And I believe Shaka Khan is one of the performers on the album. So, dear family, we thank you so much for again being with us, and we pray that something that was shared this evening is of benefit to you and your family. And we pray that you all understand that we are at war and that you need to get your survival kit together. Make sure that you've got water and food and all of the provisions that are necessary to have in your house that can last you for a good few weeks, not 3 days, few weeks, in the event that we can't go outside because of the outbreak of hostilities in this world. And so, dear family, I pray that Allah will bless and keep you until we meet again, inshallah, same time, same place next week. Looking forward to another episode of the Image and Nation show. Over to you, Sister Claudia.
Yes, thank you. I've learnt today. I didn't know anything really about Juneteenth, so praise be to Allah. Thank you for that. Don't forget to tune in to the Final Call Radio 24/7. Don't forget to subscribe to the Final Call newspaper. Let's help grow our nation.
Absolutely.
It's for all of us. It's a benefit for all. Don't forget to Tune into NOI.org. Don't forget also to feed yourself spiritually with the books. You can purchase books on NOI.org and go to the store section. Feed our mind. That's the first survival, is survival of yourself. Then you'll know, you'll be inclined to start surviving buying the physical things. But first, you've got to have the right mindset. But thank you all. May Allah God continue to bless, guide and protect you all of your families, wherever you are on the planet Earth. Thank you once again, and Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, beloved. Take care.